This is the Henry's Child Podcast. Am I crazy? Or am I just raving? Episode 3, Deconstructing Headlights.
You really could just name most of these podcasts. Am I crazy or am I just raving? It's actually a good title for a podcast.
It's a question that I've asked myself several times.
I mean, really, that's just a good title for a podcast. I might click on that. Am I crazy or am I just raving?
Welcome to episode 3 of the Henry's Child Podcast.
Number 3.
Today we are going to rave about the song Headlights. In our last episode, we discussed at length the song I Will. And from that same album comes Headlights, which was another much requested song that we sort of deconstruct and take a look at. And Headlights, at least how it was framed for us for many years, was the pumping, pumping, pumping song. And the name Headlights isn't even referred to in the lyrics of the song. So, Andrew, why is this song named Headlights?
We'll start there. Okay. Wow. I don't know. I had something around back then wanting to name songs that wasn't in the title. Or the title wasn't in the song. Let me say it the right way.
Okay.
It didn't really work very often. I mean, this song could easily be pumping, pumping. It could be adrenaline. It could be it's in my head if you know the song. But there's a lyric.
Dance.
There's a great lyric from the song Rusty Cage. It's by Soundgarden, but it's the cover by Johnny Cash that really landed the lyric for me. Like God's eyes in my headlights.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That image really struck me. I don't know why. That image really struck me. And somehow it's, I talk about a spotlight being shined on yourself to discover yourself. Imagine God's eyes staring at you. What would you discover? What could you discover? So this song is a lot around a light on, I don't know, my own issues with myself. And issues a lot of people have with me.
That too, huh?
Of course. So anyway, that's where it comes from. And I thought it really applied with the subject matter.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a lot less deeper than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, sorry. Sometimes it's just shallow. You hear a cool lyric, you want to use it.
Creativity comes from anywhere, doesn't it?
Indeed.
We only have 12 notes. We got to share them, right?
That's right. That's right.
So one of the memories that I have from the song Headlights comes from obviously when we used to play it live. And there's a move that you do where you sort of get on your knees, and during the pumping section.
I'm not actually on my knees. I'm crouched. It's on my feet.
Yeah, okay. Crouching tiger, whatever.
Whatever.
So anyway, you do this move, the same move. And there were several times where you would sort of bounce across the stage and turn Rich's distortion off because you hit the end of his pedals. Oh, yeah.
I've unplugged him. I've slammed into him. I've slammed into you. I knocked you down fully on stage and unplugged. You kept playing. I remember. That was what a pity, wasn't it?
I
knocked you down?
Is that the same one where you nailed your tooth?
That's probably the same show.
Maybe the same show.
Same show. Yeah, this song's famous for that, I guess, or very famous in a very small circle.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And if somebody's listening to this podcast, they're probably part of that circle as well.
Yeah, that's probably true. Everyone knows that pumping move. It just emphasizes what's going on in the song. I mean, it's an intense tune. I mean, Rich started that riff, that stomp, deliberately wanting to write the heaviest, stompinest riff that he could come up with that lent itself to some melody. He started playing that with the stops, and I was immediately enrolled. Like, let's go.
Yeah, see, I wasn't around for the writing of that song.
Yeah, that's true. That was Chris.
So I don't really know that story, but it makes sense based off the music we write with Rich now.
Right. I mean, that's how we normally write songs. Rich will have a riff. Usually he'll have 2 or 3 or 4, sometimes even 5. Sometimes he emails them to me these days, And I'll listen to them, and I'll listen to one, and I don't really hear anything. It's cool, but nothing connects with me. Listen to another one, nothing connects. Rolls around on the third one, bam. That's it.
And you just know it.
Absolutely. It's immediate. There is a melody that hits. Oftentimes there's a very good lyric that hits, and it hits very rapidly. A connection. There's a connection with that music. Whatever he's trying to create mood-wise, whatever he's trying to create in a feel, lands immediately. And you've seen it. You've been in practice when it's happened. I know you've seen it, Tom.
Several times.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and it hits, when he plays something that hits me, almost always, if it doesn't become a full song, we end up working on it for a couple of hours to see if we can develop it.
Sure.
And that's how this happened. So he had that riff, came to practice, and played it, and I immediately felt it.
Well, speaking of mood, what's interesting and occurs for me in the song Headlights is it's almost like has anxiety, or it's almost sort of passive aggressive, because it starts off with this kind of slow and loping bass line, a little bit of Andrew kind of in there, and then boom, sample.
Yeah.
And then boom, song in your face.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very moody.
It is, and anxiety is a good word for it. It's really about the expression of extraordinarily intense feelings I had back then around my own belief in my own sanity. That started earlier. I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Right? Spent a couple of years going from job to job to job to job, doing a bunch of drugs, drinking a lot, having a hard time. Nothing was connecting with me. Nothing. Getting diagnosed, getting labeled, getting the forehead stamp, kaponk,
Yikes.
Yeah, you're screwed up. And I was too young to understand what that meant, so I took it that an authority had stamped me with that label. Then I started reading about it and realized I didn't agree. I thought I didn't really feel like I had a borderline personality. I thought I was much closer to a narcissist.
So you were sort of already over the borderline.
Apparently, into narcissism. And then I really started questioning whether or not I had a conscience. And that gets into psychopathy.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So
you just went from the color purple to like
dark black.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you got dark instantly.
Indeed. And this was over a course of time. And the self-exploration of that and the struggle with that. I had the ability to treat my friends horribly. And most of my friends that have known me most of my life will agree with that. I had an extraordinary ability to be cruel to my friends and people around me with very little conscience, as long as I got my way. Now, an interesting difference in what really sent me down the rabbit hole back then was that narcissists are often unaware of their impact on other people, or that they're different. They're not aware of that. If you read the personality disorder, it's a very common thing. Sociopaths or psychopaths are aware that they're different. They just don't care. And they use that difference to their advantage. So what really messed me up was that I realized I was aware that I felt different, that I could choose these acts of cruelty and do them. So I really had a moment where I was wondering if I was a psychopath. Might seem ridiculous on the outside looking in, but that was a true struggle I had for a few years. And this song is kind of an expression of that. Am I crazy or am I just raving? All of us have dark thoughts. We may even indulge those by watching dark movies, or write dark lyrics, or scream at a wall, whatever it takes to express those dark feelings. But they don't rule us. We don't hurt other people.
Right.
So that's raving. I'm raving about it. Whatever shitty thing happened in your life, I rave about it. We all do. Being crazy is living that.
So am I crazy or am I raving is an actual question.
Absolutely. A question I asked myself. And really, you can hear that in the riff. I really think you can. That stomp, that anxiety. I mean, you talked about it immediately out of the gate. I mean, it's intense.
It's throbbing.
Yeah, throbbing. Yeah. Okay, good word. I like that. Let's play that. Let's play it. I know you've got it queued up right now. So from the very beginning, when it comes in heavy, let's go all the way through the first chorus, in my head. Okay?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
can feel. Adrenaline. Bumping, 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 bumping me into a ballistic frenzy that demands a tighter truth. Abuse my power over another to gain a clearer view. Victims dancing, I chase them once and really lead me far astray. Got so lost, I staggered past the answers trying to relay. It's in my head. It's in my head. It's in my head. It's in my head.
So it's in my head, which you say as almost foreshadowing. Well, I know the song really well. So at the end of the second verse going into the outro, there's a lot more mention of it's in my head. But this seems like it's, now that I understand the context, this seems like it's much more of a relevant question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the blessing and the curse of it. You get labeled something, realizing you're getting labeled something, personality disorder, bipolar, depressive, any of those labels that you get hit with from an authority figure, no less, that you then get to own for the rest of your life, only has meaning if you put meaning on it.
Right. So the meaning we make on things.
Absolutely true. At the same time, so I'm placing the meaning on this stuff. I'm letting it drive me down the rabbit hole into doubting my own sanity, or if I, belong walking around, if I'm that messed up. At the same time, realizing I'm placing that meaning on that, it's still in there. These feelings and thoughts came from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's in my head. It's all in my head. And yeah, it's kind of, like I said, the double meaning of that, the blessing and the curse.
So with this in mind, it sort of crescendos in the midsection, which really is just a more up-tempo and upbeat notes and
Of the intro.
and feeling of the intro.
Absolutely.
But done with almost like, I want to say heavier, but it's actually more jazzy the way Jeff made it sound.
Yeah,
And
there's Jeff and those drums again, right?
Just like in I Will, the drums have a tendency to set everything up.
Yeah, tendency indeed. I mean, it's the flavor of that whole midsection. Again, that midsection, it starts with the "so I fly away," right? And that's getting away from those thoughts, getting out of your head. And that's the instrumental. But it comes back to the question, am I crazy or am I just raving? And this time I'm screaming it at the top of my lungs.
And the song hits a really big peak during that. So we take it from something at a very low slope all the way up to the top, where you then ask the question again, am I crazy or am I raving?
Right.
And you scream it from the top of your lungs.
Indeed. So let's give that a listen. I know it's queued up again. I love that whole middle section. Rich's kind of soaring octave solo that he's got going through there. That we call them melodic interludes, because Rich never really soloed, but this is a beautiful example of Rich in his melodic interlude. I love listening to that slide on that guitar back and forth with those chords, and then how it all lands when Jeff starts hammering that snare at the end of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, fantastic. Here we go.
So I fly away.
pitch interlude is amazing.
Agreed. That's what I loved about him. It's a solo without being a solo.
Not only that, but it's like singing without being a solo.
Great melody. It's great melody, and I love the way he builds the whole thing, and the melody goes back and forth, and he goes up, 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 and it launches into that final riff where Jeff starts hammering that snare, and the vocal comes in. The whole thing is a progression, and he leads the way on that. It's great. Really, really like that.
Really awesome.
I've always loved that.
Yeah, me too. Well, I certainly understand the song a lot more now.
Yeah, but
and I also understand where the samples come from.
Right. Now they're really on the nose, right?
Absolutely.
So people have always asked where that came from, and it was a cute coincidence that it came from Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, right? Henry's Child. But really, it's an on-the-nose example. I mean, when you're questioning your own conscience and psychopathy, and that movie's about a total psychopath. So, yeah, seems a bit obvious in retrospect, but I was really unafraid of being obvious back in the day.
Well, back in the day, podcasts didn't exist where you could actually ask questions like this.
Yeah, indeed.
One of my absolute favorite lyrics in this song is using words as their chosen weapons. People aim their voice at me.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It is a really good one.
Yeah, that's being labeled. You know, someone rubber stamps your head with your ADHD, your bipolar, whatever it may be. People use words as weapons in such a multitude of ways. You can use "I hate you." That can be a weapon. You can be passive aggressive about it. You can make someone feel less than, feel like, because they allow you to, of course. Right? I understand that. At the same time, at that age, someone's going to label you, and your miscreant behavior becomes the way that you are no matter what, because you are this way. It's hard, and it's intense.
Yeah, that sounds intense.
I think people live with that every day. Again, you're depressed. You're depressed. Am I depressed? He said I'm depressed. I must be depressed.
Which is a weird closed feedback loop, because then you feel like you have no choice but to live into that next moment, because you're told, and I think that the younger you are, the more impressionable you are, and the more you again, not to bring another song back to opinion, but it all comes back based on your youth. Based on your youth, the closed feedback loop never gets closed. It's almost like a cycle that never completes.
Absolutely. Anyway, so that lyric is exactly that. Your words become weapons when you start labeling people. It's convenient for those around that person, and it's convenient. It's a convenient way for that person to label their own behavior. So a lot of people embrace it, and they find identity in it, and that's when it really gets dangerous. When you identify as a depressed person,
right?
When you identify as someone with bipolar disorder, then you are living it. Yeah, dangerous, very dangerous.
So as heavy as the song is, with the guitars and the bass and the drums, and as heavy of a subject matter as you've chosen to write about, it's also kind of a humorous song too. You do that goofy voice, right?
You can feel,
and then the pumping across the stage, and the samples, and everybody sings along.
Indeed, we get people that will do the samples from the audience when we don't have the sample ready from the stage. The crowd will actually, they'll actually yell out the sample more than once, right? I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, I'm not sure where the humor of this came from. I don't know. I really don't know. It seems like it should be nothing but serious. But that original, I can feel adrenaline pumping. First time it came out with some humor. And somehow that felt right in the song. I can't really explain it to this day. I can't get myself, kind of like a little bit of I Will I talked about. I can't get myself back there to tell you exactly why that came out as humorous, and we all felt that was right for the song. And not just us, but the audience, obviously, thought that was right for the song. Totally. They love it too. Mm-hmm. So guess what? It's right for the song.
It is.
In retrospect, talking about it, I couldn't tell you why. That's a mystery, truly. To me too. And I think we should end on a mystery, Tom. Headlights. Can't demystify the entire song. That's no fun. Demystify the title, told you what it was about, but cannot tell you where the humor came from.
I already feel like I've cheated. Look at all this information I have out of you about Headlights.
Oh, it's funny. I've told this story to a couple of fans. back in the day. I had a couple people sit me down before a show and really like ask some serious probing questions.
Wow.
I know. It's takes
played this
an
song
unusual.
for 23 years, and I still don't know the meaning behind stuff. I learned something new today.
How about that?
And I hope everybody learned something new today. If you liked what you heard and you'd like more stories from Henry's Child, please do us a favor and subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play. If you really liked what you heard, go to those respective stores and please give us a 5-star rating so that we can give you more stories and deconstruct more songs for your listening pleasure. If you want to personally get a hold of us, you can write us directly at henryschild@henryschild.com, or you can reach out to us over Facebook. We love either way. We love all the suggestions and feedback and song requests. And we look forward to bringing you more podcasts very soon. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Is that it? It came out my mouth.